Hey everyone, this is Quinn Pettiford from the Gazette, and you are watching the 2021 Her Women of Achievement interviews. This is brought to you by Farmer State Bank. Thank you to FSB for being our sponsor for Her Women of Achievement, as well as lots of our Her events throughout the year. And this video series is part of our virtual platform. So if you're watching this, you're able to get on and celebrate and check out more information about each one of our honorees. And with me today is Rachel Rockwell from the Greater Cedar Rapids Community Foundation. Rachel, hi and congratulations.
Thank you, Quinn. It's a great honor.
So what we're going to do here is we're going to learn a little bit more about your role. I think a lot of people are familiar with the Greater Cedar Rapids Community Foundation, but I know a lot of people have been really fascinated by the work of your specific area, which is SET. The Safe, Equitable, and Thriving Communities. And this is something that has been part of our community for a few years. And the nomination by Les Garner was so moving. I know you haven't had a chance to read it yet, but I'm going to be sending it your way. But Les was able to really take us through how you were able to bring so many different pieces of the community together to make some really amazing milestones within that work. So that's one of the many reasons you're being honored and celebrated. So we'll get into that for a second, but I wanted to first start out with just getting to know a little bit more about you. So tell us where you're from. Tell us, tell us your story.
Okay. Well, I was born and raised in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and grew up here, had a happy childhood up until I got to be a preteen and teenager, and then experienced all the angst, plus, a lot of sort of searching for who I am as a Black person living in Iowa. I read somewhere that when I was born, which was back in 1973, Iowa was 99% white. And so that was kind of what my grade school experience was. And then when I got into middle school, things were a little bit more colorful and became a little bit confusing for me. So I lived here and worked here. I went to Arthur and Franklin and Washington and Metro High School. I ended up getting my GED. I was a very young parent. I have a 32-year-old son, and I have 5 grandchildren that I am a proud grandma to.
The fact that I'm always so proud of women that are willing to this is my age, like the fact that you were like born in 73, I'm like, just get it out there.
I'm just gonna let you know. I don't want you guys, go on and do the math. It's fine.
Do it. I'm right behind you, so I'm gonna limit my math. Sorry to interrupt you, but that is amazing. That's awesome. 5 wonderful grandchildren. Keep going, please.
Well, most people think this is blonde hair. It's actually gray. So just say that up front. I just do a little something to make it look like it's blonde. So
make it look good.
Thank you. So when I was in my mid-20s, I moved to Des Moines and started a life there. I was mostly working in the insurance and financial sectors. And after doing that for a number of years and getting into that routine, I realized I was pretty unhappy and that there had to be more to life. And so I left Citigroup, who I had been working with for about 5 years, and went back to school. I got my bachelor's degree at Grandview University and was studying psychology, and also got my art therapy certificature. And through that
seems a little bit more. I'm like, I had to stop and take a moment. Sorry, nothing against insurance. Insurance is a wonderful industry. We all need it, but I know you. I can't see you in there. I'm okay. I am glad you branched back into.
I'm good with numbers, but
Yes, that makes
but I'm
sense.
an artist at heart, right? So,
Yeah.
so after that, I decided to. I started a new job at an organization that did business development consulting for small businesses, and worked with I think about 30 small business owners. And when I say small business owners, they're like their annual income was usually anywhere from 300,000 to the largest client was 30 million. And basically what we did with those clients, and I had to get intensively trained to be able to do this first, is to help them kind of realize who they were as a business owner, who they wanted to be in life for their families and their communities. And we did that through kind of identifying their primary aim. And to be able to help other people to do that, I had to be able to do that myself. And so I really realized through that job and through that role who I was and who I was meant to be, and how I was really meant to be helping other people to achieve and realize what their primary aim in life is. And so ever since getting trained and going through that process, that is what I've been doing in one capacity or another in any role that I've been in and in any country that I've been in. So I've been doing business consulting ever since, and have consulted in Iowa, throughout the United States, Aruba, Jamaica, to East Africa. And so that's been pretty fantastic to meet so many people with so many different backgrounds, and to be able to partner with them in helping them to realize both their life goals and their organizational roles, because really expanded into working with nonprofit organizations, especially when I went to do consulting internationally. And
you have the business savvy and the number of, so you understand the basics of what they're going through as a business owner, and yet that psychological understanding, like you said, like understanding what they want and who they are, is such a piece that I imagine most business owners, or people that are really focused on that bottom line, don't necessarily make that instant connection of how one can have such impact on the other. That is fascinating. That is such a cool combination of gifts. Most of us don't have both sides of our brains to do that. So that is awesome. That is very cool. Tell me a little bit about traveling internationally and just what that experience was from a work perspective.
Sure. Well, when I was still in Des Moines, I started a nonprofit organization called Culture Incorporated. And I have developed this kind of passion for youth development and community development. And so Culture Incorporated was a community center, an arts-based community center, focused on older youth, 10 to 18, and their families, who might not be connected with their education or with community for various different reasons. Maybe they don't feel welcomed, maybe they're not your typical student, or maybe they've had life experiences that make things a little bit more challenging. And so we really built community there, and we had folks from many different countries and different backgrounds and different experiences coming together to learn about culture, to learn about ourselves, to learn about how do we grow into the people we want to be. And during that process, there was another community group that was doing Kwanzaa events every year. And so they asked to use our community center to do the Kwanzaa events, which are, they're ongoing for a number of days. And so during that time, I learned a lot about the Swahili culture, which is that celebration is based on. And I learned some Kiswahili, which is the language that is in East Africa. And I also some time around this time watched this documentary called A Panther in Africa, which is about Pete O'Neill and Charlotte O'Neill, who Pete O'Neill was the founder of the Black Panther Party in Kansas City. So this documentary is about how they moved to Tanzania and how they had a whole community center where they were educating youth, and they had volunteers coming from all over the world to teach and learn together with the youth in Arusha, Tanzania. And I was just amazed by their story and all of the hardships that they'd gone through, and how they were just really giving their lives to whichever community that they were in. And so I said, I'm going there one day. I'm going to meet them. And I wrote them, and I became Facebook friends. And like for a number of years after that, I kept in contact with them. They're like, come on, we're here, come on.
We're waiting for you.
I probably get like thousands of emails from people saying that same thing. And they're like, we're never going to meet this girl. But
they didn't know Rachel Rockwell.
Well, I had Culture Incorporated. We had to shut down the community center because lack of funding. After about 3 years, I moved back to Cedar Rapids. I was director at Linn County Extension for almost 2 years. That was not a good fit for me, and Cedar Rapids was not a good fit for where I was at in my life at that time. And I decided that I was going. And so I booked a ticket to Dar es Salaam, which is the biggest city in Tanzania. I think there's like 6 million or 9 million people that live there. And I did a solo trip, first time out of the country, first time on the continent of Africa. And
go big, right? Might as well go big.
Or stay home,
Yep.
Yeah. So I was able to go and do volunteer consulting with Pete and Charlotte at the United African Alliance Community Center, and get to meet them and get to meet the youth and some international partners that they were working with. And I also consulted with another organization on the island of Zanzibar, which is part of Tanzania. So I was 2 weeks at UAACC and 2 weeks with an organization called Creative Solutions. And I came back here, and I was so amazed by that experience and the people that I had met and the beauty of the country, and how peaceful everyone was and how people worked together, that I just couldn't think about anything else but going back. And so I went back just a few months later, and I was there for 8 weeks that time. And then I came back to Iowa again and was just like, what am I doing here? I don't know, I know that I have a passion for youth development and for community development, and I have these skills. I don't know how to use them. And so I ended up going to Jamaica and living there for 4 months and working with the Jamaican government to develop capacity with small community groups or nonprofits to get funding, proposal writing. And I also worked with a number of youth groups in developing business plans and thinking entrepreneurially. And that was a wonderful experience. I came back here again. I was like, okay, now what? And one of the organizations Creative Solutions, which was one of the organizations I had volunteered with on Zanzibar, the director called me and said, hey, we need you to help us implement that strategic plan that you helped us create when you were here. Can you come? And I was like, yes. And so
not even thinking twice about
yes, I can. And so I sold all my stuff, and I booked a ticket for me and my 10-year-old son at that time. And we moved to East Africa, and ended up consulting with both that organization for a period of time, a hotel, a doctor who was opening up like a telemedicine clinic, a Tanzanian man who was opening up a restaurant. We helped get that launched and operational. I consulted with a Maasai man who owned a safari car sales company. I worked with some Korean Americans who had a nonprofit organization there that was focused on building capacity for the schools around technology and putting robotics programs into the schools and training teachers on how to use computers so that they can train the youth, and also some business competitions. And we did some training at the oh, I forget the name of one of the universities there for entrepreneurs. And so that's kind of the scope of work while I was living there. And I just moved back in August of 2018 to Cedar Rapids.
Okay, so I've known you for a couple of years now, and so much of the story I've heard bits and pieces, but sitting here and hearing the entire journey, it now makes sense as far as where you are right now, because one of the first things when I met you through SET, and we'll get into SET here in a second, was who not who would do this, but how can somebody take on such a huge issue like youth violence and youth violence prevention and be able to really look at it from a community perspective where you have so many different interests coming to the table, all with great intentions, but all with very different perspectives. Like, how do you even begin to organize that and get everybody to be at the table together and to work forward on a common goal and understand each other's perspectives? Like, but what you just shared, it was, I now all of a sudden I get it. Like that's what you've been doing for so long, is just is connecting communities and connecting people with a common goal of strengthening an overall community. I mean, that's what got you to where you are today. It's very impressive. And I am so glad that you came back to Iowa, because at the time, that is where we were as a community. And I'm going to ask now, if you don't mind, just getting into a little bit about what connected you to the work of SET.
Sure. Well, when I came back from East Africa, I took a role. I had a job lined up before I even got here with the Cedar Rapids School District as community school coordinator, and I just felt like that was the perfect landing spot for me to transition back into the community. At Hoover School, there's a large population of immigrant and refugee families, and many of them are from East Africa and speak Kiswahili. And so I was able to build these relationships and help support the students and the families over at Hoover. And we were able to put some great things into place there. But when I saw that the Greater Cedar Rapids Community Foundation was hiring for the program officer for the Creating Safe, Equitable, and Thriving Communities Fund, and I read through what that work was, and I learned a little bit about the SET task force, because I had no idea about the work and that the community had been doing to kind of understand the underlying causes of youth violence in the community, because I was in East Africa. I was not connected with that at all. And I was just so impressed that the partners had come together. They had stayed together for a period of time, long enough to work through and find some recommendations for the community on how we can intervene and prevent youth violence. And there's a SET task force report, and I read that and I said, this is what I need to be doing. I don't know how. I have no idea of how, but I felt like if I'm going to be not on some exotic island in East Africa, that
worth my time.
then wherever I'm at, I need to have the greatest possible impact on the community. And the other thing that led me to this work is that, when I was in East Africa, I saw young men, I mean, as young as 7 years old, they could be 15 years old, they could be 30 years old, they could be 75 years old. African men walking down the street, holding hands, talking to each other. I saw neighbors who would come out of their house, and they wouldn't just nod or say hi, they would stop and they would ask each other how each other are, and how their grandma is, and how their grandkids are, and how their brother is, and what about this friend. And when things happened in the community, everybody came together to support the families, whether it was for a funeral. Like, the whole community just came and embraced that family and held them up and supported them. And nobody had guns. nobody had guns except for the military and police. So there was no gun violence. And there's just a whole sense of peace and love and welcoming and safety that is there that even in Iowa, even in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, we don't get to experience. And so that's the other thing that drew me to this, is that I know that we're not meant to be running around with guns and hurting each other or resolving our conflicts with violence. And I want us to know that as a community, that there's a better way, and there's a better way of life, and that we should love each other and work towards resolving our conflict, which we will always have, in ways that don't hurt each other.
So you took this on. You said you identified this opportunity, which you summed it up so beautifully, because your take on this is really understanding the individual and the situation, and what is required and needed for everybody, a family, an individual, to be their best self. Because we all need help, right? Nobody can do it on their own, and it's about building community. And that's, I want to fast forward a little bit, because I know we're skipping a lot of milestone moments of what you've done since your time returning to Iowa. And I'm really excited for people to get to learn more about the work. But one of the biggest moments was connecting to the GBI work that you have now entered our community into, that is just already making real impact and real difference. Can you take a little bit of time to explain what that work is, where that work is at now? Sorry. I'm just so excited about it. I stumble over my
It's okay. So just a couple months after starting with the Greater Cedar Rapids Community Foundation in this role, we had put some money out into the community for summer programs in 2019. It was just like go, go, go. But during that time, kind of realized that there aren't nonprofit organizations that specialize, or even social services that specialize in preventing community violence or youth violence or gun violence, and that we don't really know what is going to work, and that we can just continue to have grant cycles and give money to the best applications to do this work. But does that mean that we're really going to have an impact? Or are we really going to reduce youth violence and gun violence? Probably not, because we don't know what's going to work. And so started doing some research and came across the National Network for Safe Communities, and a model, which is a comprehensive gun violence reduction strategy. And it's comprehensive because it means it's not law enforcement's job alone to prevent violence, but we really have to use the community, the voice of the community. We have to integrate nonprofit and social services and law enforcement. We have to come together across sectors and have a unified voice and stance against violence. But we also have to offer other solutions and opportunities for those who have experienced violence throughout their lives, or have been traumatized by violence, or don't know other ways to resolve their conflicts or disputes, because they haven't learned those skills in the past. And so there was a conference coming up, I think about a month ahead of when I had found this model and started researching it. And I went to Carla Tweetball, who is VP at the Greater Cedar Rapids Community Foundation, and said, there's this wonderful conference, I really want to go. It's research-based. There's evidence that this works. There's other communities that have implemented this, and they've seen 40 and 50 and 60% reductions in shots fired and homicides and group-related violence, and I really think we should go. And at first I was like, well, that's a month away, sorry, and that's not going to happen. That was sort of
usually happen in nonprofit world, right? Usually.
and I kind of dug my heels in, as I've known I'm a little bit stubborn and pushy when I believe something's right. And Carla and Les and the rest of the community foundation figured out a way to not only send me to that conference, but also 7 other community members to go learn about this model. And we did, and the experience was so eye-opening. We learned that in any given community, that the drivers of this extreme violence with gun violence are there's just a very small number of individuals who are either are at high risk of becoming victims or victimizing others with gun violence, and that that law enforcement and community members both know who those individuals are, and that if we can address them and give them a message of peace, and also give them a message of hope, and also give them a message of the violence has to stop, that research shows that will work, that will reduce violence. And that takes a lot of trust building between community members and law enforcement. And that's what we've been working on over the last couple of years. And just in the last month, we have really operationalized this, and we're working in partnership with nonprofit organizations, with social services, with Cedar Rapids Police Department, and we are going out and we are messaging. There's about 70 folks in Cedar Rapids who, if we can get them to find other ways to deal with their situations that they've found themselves in, and give them supports and services to do other things with their life, we will see a reduction in violence. Excuse me. So we've been going out and giving that message in partnership with community members and the police department. And the message is simply this: we know that you're very active, and that when there's gun violence going on, that you always seem to be right around that activity. We're worried about you. We want our community to be safe from gun violence. We want you to be safe. We want you alive so that you can become, a important part of our community. You can grow into that person that you're meant to be, and we want you out of prison also. And so something's got to change, and we're here to help you make that change, and we will walk alongside you to make those changes. And so this last month has just been it's been good for the community, and everyone is very invested in seeing this work, the partners, and we are really looking forward to seeing a different summer and a different year and a different number of years going forward when it comes to gun violence in our community. And so that's where we're at.
Just a simple project, I know you don't, I know this recognition is tough for you, because of what you do is so, just truly you're doing it for the work, and you're doing it for the good, and just this makes sense and this is needed. But I have seen, and full disclosure, have been a part of these community conversations, and I know why you're here today for Her Women of Achievement, because of the fact that you have brought so many people to the table who intentions are good, but perhaps the understanding of how we get there has varied, but because of your leadership, you have brought all of us to an understanding of what it takes to really work together and to really listen to one another, and to be willing to put aside some of our own priorities and strategies or what have you, and only apply what really is going to get us results. And that's what's happening right now. I mean, and I don't want not to make you uncomfortable, but I said it just a couple weeks ago. You are making that happen, and that is a true leader. And it's because everything that you do and the way that you position your leadership is about everybody understanding one another, and that is a true gift. That is, I'm blown away by what you have been able to do with this work. I'm so proud of what you have been able to accomplish. And I know that everybody that is part of the GVI work and the SET work is just beyond impressed with what has already been able to come to fruition from this work. So congratulations. I don't know I feel like congratulations doesn't do it justice. I mean, you are making a difference in people's lives, and you are helping lead a group and a community to work together. And I know people collaborate often, but this is such a unique collaboration. How do you feel right now? I mean, knowing that it has been such a journey, even in the last couple of years. One of my questions on here for her Women of Achievement is, in your role, we all have challenges. How do you address those challenges? And I couldn't help but chuckle because I'm like, I feel like this is a loaded question for you, Rachel. But how do you feel right now, just knowing what you have been able to accomplish, what we have been able to accomplish, and what's on the horizon?
Well, thank you first for all of the kind things that you've said. I really have to, I don't want to deflect, but I will say that this has been, a learning process for me all along the way, along with all of the community partners that have engaged and are, at the table wanting to do this work. And it hasn't been easy. And there's been some times when I wanted to yell and scream and curse at the world, at certain individuals, and there's been times when there's been, some really great highs along the way where, we've been able to bring in a large amount of funding to support the implementation of GVI. We've been able to really bring the key stakeholders together in agreement about what the next steps are. And so those things, they feel really great. But that high feeling does not last but for a moment, because we still have young people who are dying in our community. And I have met just in the last couple of weeks people who aren't even 20 years old and have been shot multiple times, and are living with that trauma and will live the rest of their lives with that trauma. And so until we see the gun violence gone, at the level that it is now, I can't breathe and relax and celebrate. So I feel full of hope. Mm-hmm. And I'm also a little bit fearful that something or someone will mess up all this hard work that our community has been doing. And so I'm kind of mama bear right now about this GVI, and really wanting it to be part of the way Cedar Rapids is caring for our community, and that we are fiercely protecting our youth. That's how I feel. I feel like a fierce mama bear.
Right. I think you can feel whatever you want to feel, given how you've been leading this, and it makes total sense. Like, this should not be the unique approach necessarily, right? Like, this shouldn't be like this extraordinary approach, but this should be just the way that we do things. But I am glad that you are accepting the Her Women of Achievement Award to at least recognize that you have started something so important, and we're going to keep going as a community. So absolutely. Woo! Okay, so are you ready for a fun round, a fun speed round of some questions here? We got deep for a while.
Yeah, we did. Okay, let's have fun.
All right. So, favorite author or book?
I do not have a favorite author or book, but I'll give you some of my favorites. The Secret Garden, Where the Red Fern Grows, The Red Tent, Their Eyes Were Watching God, The Color Purple, the autobiography of Malcolm X, Asada, which is a biography done by Asada Shakur. Okay, that's enough.
Like, that was just all up here. You didn't even have to list or anything. You just rattled it off. Those are great picks. Best advice you've ever received?
Just be you. Mm-hmm. Just be you. You are enough. You are what is needed. Yes, just be you.
Your hero, who inspires you?
So this changes all of the time. I don't think I've ever really had one hero, but I mentioned Pete O'Neill and Charlotte O'Neill. The way they've lived their lives is nothing short of heroic. I have a new hero, I think, that I just met this year, and his name is Carlos Sheets, and Carlos is a father of 3 who lives here in Lynn County, and he lost his son Malik Sheets to gun violence, and I just can't imagine the pain and sorrow. I can't imagine, but he has, instead of like wallowing in that pain, which I think I would be doing, I think I would be just laid out and no more good to anybody. He has moved forward in a way that his heart seems to have like broken open, and he has started a youth group called Melanated Men to work with youth at the middle school level to help them to, grow into their potential and into the young men they have been. So he's really taking the spirit of his son and the love for his son and giving it to these young men. And that's just the most beautiful thing I've seen, and that takes a very strong and loving person. And so, like, right now, he's my hero.
That is absolutely heroic. Like you said, I mean, just to be, you can go one way or the other with something so horribly tragic happening in your life, and to do that, and not only for yourself, but for so many people. That is awesome. Favorite place to eat or shop local?
Oh, I love the Taj Mahal.
Ooh, that food is
so good. Yes.
That's my favorite question, because I'm always like, okay, this is where I'm going to go eat tonight. Love it. Any favorite shops, like retail or just places to go check out?
Goodwill.
Goodwill's good. You had some good stuff there. I just did a bunch of spring cleaning and dropped off stuff to Goodwill, and then I made the mistake of going in, and I'm like, I'm going to walk out with just as much stuff that I just dropped off.
That's
awesome.
how it starts.
That's right. Oh, okay. Now this is a curveball of list of questions here, but we're entering summer season, so we're asking everybody favorite flavor of ice cream.
Oh, mint chocolate chip.
Oh, that you didn't even hesitate. That's like
No,
that's been your go-to,
favorite.
right?
Yep.
I love it. Rachel, it has been so awesome. I am, like I said, I cannot be more proud to get to celebrate with you and to get to do this interview with you. It's something I've wanted to do for a while, and just finding out that you got the Her Women of Achievement Award for this year, I was like, oh, this is a great way to not only, I love talking to you whenever I can, but it's a great way to have so many people understand just what you have done for our community and a little bit more about your journey, which is so fascinating and so inspiring. So congratulations on this award, and I'm going to turn it over to you if you want to say anything about receiving Her Women of Achievement Award. So all you, go ahead.
Yeah. It's a great honor. It came at a time when I really just needed that boost, and so like the timing of that was just perfect. And I really want to say that the Greater Cedar Rapids Community Foundation is really an amazing organization that cares about this community, and I think the fact that they were willing to take kind of a risk and start this new fund and to hire this crazy person to do this work has really been a catalyst for everything that's happened after that. So I think there's a lot of credit that is due there also, and really just grateful and glad to be doing this work. It's humbling, and I don't know what else I would be doing. So I don't know what to say.
We don't want you to do anything. We want you to keep going. So, well, thank you so much. And congratulations again, Rachel. And thank you to our viewers for checking out another edition of our 2021 Her Women of Achievement video series. I'm Quinn Pettifer of the Gazette, and thanks again to Farmers State Bank, our sponsor for Her Women of Achievement. Thank you again, and congratulations, Rachel. And we'll see you next time.